So Scripture makes it very clear that we are to care for the earth on behalf of God. Starting in Genesis, humans are challenged to care for the earth and to till it and keep it. Did you know that there are over 1,000 references to earth care in the Bible? 1,000. My favorite is Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and all who live in it. If you have a favorite, you can write it in the chat. Okay. Further, Jesus challenges us to care for the least of these or the most vulnerable. We know that environmental issues affect those who are the poorest, the greatest, and so when we care for the earth, we're also caring for the least of these. This is especially true with the current and upcoming impacts of climate change. As we know, the poor tend to live along the coast, and that's where sea levels are rising. The Presbyterian Church has many policies calling the church to care for the earth. And the main policy is called Restoring Creation for Ecology and Justice. Okay, you can tell by the age of this book that it was done a while ago, like 1990, 33 years ago, the General Assembly approved this policy. And this policy calls PCUSA to work for earth care and eco-justice. So part of Restoring Creation for Ecology and Justice is the call to restore the creation. And it was reaffirmed by the 2010 General Assembly. So we're still working on it. The call to restore the creation stated that the 1990 General Assembly, number 1, recognizes and accepts restoring creation as a central concern of the church to be incorporated into its life and mission at every level. That includes the church level, that includes the individual level, that includes the Presbyterian level and the Synod level and Louisville. I lost it. There are 2 parts to becoming an earth care congregation. The first is a church affirms the earth care pledge. And that's on the slide. And they do this to integrate environmental practices and thinking into all aspects of their church life.
So what is the pledge?
Would you like me to read it? Why don't
Yes,
you
ma'am.
read it? This is your part.
There are 4 parts to the Earth Care Pledge. It's a call to restore creation. And this pledge is something that we'll talk about a little bit further into our presentation, but it's something you take to session, and your session will approve it as part of the first audit that you submit. And it calls for 4 particular sections. Worship and discipleship will celebrate God's grace. Education, we will encourage, support each other in keeping and healing creation. The facilities surrounding you, they'll be managed, maintained, and upgraded to respect and cherish all of creation. And outreach, to encourage the community involvement and public policy to protect and restore the earth.
Very good, teacher.
I try.
Okay. So the Earth Care Pledge, the reason it's my part, is because it comes from the call to restore creation. All right. Now, the second part of becoming an Earth Care congregation is to do projects and activities in those 4 categories that Joe just read, and she will be talking more about that in just a few more seconds. Okay, so I have one more slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. So, as Dr. Moffat said yesterday, there are more than 300 Earth Care congregations in the U.S. right now. In fact, there are 305. And, and I want you to notice that we have an Earth Care congregation in Hawaii, in Puerto Rico, and in Alaska. So, which is not the mainland. We are getting out there where things are really happening.
And this map is available for any of you to go to the site. We'll put the connection the link into the chat so that you can access this and show your own session. Let's be part of this growing community.
And I'm going to show you how to access that map. So on this page, and we'll put this into the chat, the link for you. You can see, oh boy, I need glasses for this.
You got it?
Yeah. So you see on the right-hand column, there is a list of links. These are links. And the first one is, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth one is the map. So if you want to see where the Earth Care congregations are, you can click on this and enlarge it, and you can find out which churches are Earth Care congregations in your area.
On that map, too, on the left-hand column, which we cut out to be able to enlarge the map a little bit for you, you'll actually see the years, and you click on those years, and you'll see who started, who was at the beginning, and who's been adding each. Me too!
So a couple other things I want to point out to you in this column on the right is the Guide to Greening Presbyterian Congregations. The first one, that actually explains to you what Earth Care Congregations is better than I did, and it also gives you instructions on how to apply for certification. And then there's one more, well, actually then the next thing you might be interested in is the application itself. And Joe's going to talk more about this. There's a first-year application, and then if you're already an ECC, you use the recertification application. And then there are, anything else you want to look at on that page? So
On the left-hand column, you'll notice that you can have access to that Earth Care Pledge that we were just talking about.
That's right.
So there's lots of information on this, and it should be in the chat as we speak, and we'll make sure those resources will be posted at the end of the conference.
you want to take over from
Is that
here?
it? Okay, here's 4 steps. Here are 4
Here's
steps.
the second half of the Jane and Joe show.
There are 4 steps to becoming an ECC. I'm just going to go through the steps in the way that our church did it. There are a couple of these steps you will look at, and you'll probably say, well, maybe we can do step 1 before step 2. There's one step, the last step, you can't. It has to be the last step, because that's the session approval and then submission. So this is the way our church did it. So we formed an Earth Care team of at least 2 people that are interested in your church becoming that Earth Care congregation. It helps to have that team first. Not all churches do it that way. It's just a way to do it. The next one is you complete the audit to see if the church earned 25 points in each category. There are 4 categories. We just talked about it: education, worship, outreach, facilities. So required would be 25 points, and you would be very surprised when you look at the audit. Many of our churches are already there. It's easy to do. And I'll make another statement about the audit, which is lovely now compared to what it used to be. So, just a story. And then you use that audit, which recommends or helps your team or your church or your session to help earn different 25 points. You don't get to claim the same ones the next year. Different 25 points in each category to identify, where are we going? Are we progressing? Can we add something new? Do we need a new mission at church? Maybe we could focus it in the environmental way. And then the last step, is to present the results. So of the audit, recommend to your session that they sign the Earth Care Pledge, because that pledge needs the signature of your clerk of session as part of the first submission of the audit form to Jessica Malden. It runs between January and February 15th. So you have a short time to submit it, but they usually release it late fall. Don't they release it late fall now? So you have a chance to work on it. If you were to click the link now for Earth Care Congregation Audit, they will tell you it's not available. So they don't put it up yet. So our church was very successful in doing this in this manner because we had all the paperwork and all the data and all the how can you say no when we went to session. And they all went, okay, and they signed it, and we were able to submit it. So you can do a couple of those steps a little differently. You know your church, you know your session, you know the team that you can work with. Here's a picture of the audit page. This is just the worship page, and you'll notice across the top, line 43, it has the number of actions. So that's in green. And if you look at the columns C through G, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What those numbers mean is if you did one of those actions, the numbers below that, vertical from that number 1, you get different points for that. So it's mathematically not challenging. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. So you see if you do 2, you get 10 points, although the number of trees that you'd plant for new members is different numbers. The magic is they've now developed this audit form that when you put your numbers in that points column, the H column, it puts it in there. And you put the next column in, you'll notice that your totals automatically add up for you. Before you had to add it up and figure it out, and anyway, so they've made the audit much easier to accomplish, to do. Also, you will find out that you start the audit, and if you get in the middle of it and you don't have the report from your worship team or you don't have the report from your facilities team, you can save it and come back to it and finish it. So it doesn't just delete itself. You don't have to redo it every time you open that page. Okay, the first year you will track the commitments and you get the areas. It has to be 25 points. To recertify, again, you track your progress.
That's 25 points per category.
Per
is that
category,
right?
yes, yes.
How much does that add up to?
Of 4 categories, the math is 100 points. We see it's pretty easy math. It really is. To recertify, there is usually a suggestion that you write a paragraph or write something about what you're going to change, what you saw different. They'll ask you a question. So it's not a difficult resubmission. A couple years ago, they did change the point level. So I'm not quite sure if we have different points available needed for recertification, but that's very simple. When you contact Jessica and get on that list, it's very easy to fill out.
Hey, Joe, do you have to say what you're going to do next year too?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, a forward
Yeah,
to
think
will,
ahead.
yeah, you can say, going to go to the mission team, or we're going to go to the education team and insist that we do a Bible study on, Eden. It works. We've done it twice now in class. So yes, you do suggest some of the things that you're going to be doing next year, and then you come back and say we did it or we didn't at the next year. You do need to submit an audit every year to continue to be an Earth Care congregation. But then if you do it after that, you can write in a paragraph, but you're not an ECC just because it's 10 years. You still have to submit.
Yeah.
You still have to submit, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and you can choose to do the full audit, and we actually have done that because our session loves data, and so they love to see changes. And again, it's not hard to do, and to take it to each team moderator. Worship team, what are your plans this year? Can you do any one of these and help you figure out what's going on? Again, the online survey form usually comes out in late fall, and then all applications will be filled out, submitted, and between January 1 and February 15. Here's just some examples of churches within PCUSA and some of the things they have chosen to do in those categories. We could have done 45 minutes of slides of projects across the nation of what they've done. So facilities, the church in Wilmington, Delaware, chose to put solar panels on their roof. I know there's some other churches that have done something similar to that. Do we know that
Bruce,
church?
do we know that church?
We know that church. Well, and then there's another church there that did a facilities team. In that particular church, I'm very familiar with.
Is that right? I wonder why.
I wonder why. I'm on the green team on that church. We are showing a picture of, we renovated all the troffer lights, those fluorescent 4-panel lights. We had some individuals in a choir room that were real concerned that we were changing out light bulbs, and instead of 4 light bulbs, we were going to only use 2, but we were going from T12 to T8, and don't worry about that. It was more light. We went in about a month before on a Saturday and changed the lights in about 3 places in the choir room. Then launched this project, and then asked them if they noticed there was a difference in the lighting. We did it in conjunction with trying to earn money for some of our mission projects, with the numbers, the data, to say the money you'll be saving on your utility bill can then be transferred from that utility fund to our mission fund. So we did it that way. 2 examples of worship. I think you're familiar with one of those.
Oh my gosh, you see that beautiful banner that's hanging there? Horizontally, that's First Presbyterian Church in Asheville, and that banner is on our balcony facing the sanctuary.
And then Crescent Hill did one on a worship service, and actually you'll see they have plants and water and things to do with gardening and planting the seed, and that was part of their worship service. 2 other categories we have to show you are education and outreach. In education in Tucker, Georgia, St. Andrews, they decided to help teach their congregation about vermiculture. Anybody know what that is? What's vermiculture? Out loud, real quick. Worm composting. So you can see they just brought bins in and taught the congregation how they can do worm composting. So that was an educational activity for them. The one at the bottom was a display, a community display at a community organization where they were talking about how to reduce your carbon footprint and what their church does to reduce their carbon footprint. So they took that education. I had a hard time, do I put it in outreach or education? But we put it in education for that picture. So we did that. Outreach, gardens, community gardens. There's quite a few churches out there that go into the community and have a plot in the community garden. Some have gardens on their actual site. I think we've heard a couple of those in other presentations today. The one at Springfield, Illinois, they did an EV event. Put it on your calendar, 1 o'clock on Saturday. Do not leave the parking lot. Stay around for our own EV show that we are holding here in the Massanetta parking lot. The next one I'm going to show you is one thing our church does is it's been 5 years now we've been doing Worship Sunday, about 5 years. We choose a Sunday, it's usually in fall, and we call it Worship. So we have a small gathering, but then we go out into the community and work till about noon, and then come back and celebrate with a communion and a lunch. And this year, if you notice those lovely green arrows, we have 3 projects that are focused on environment. So we have, one is a tour of the Project Living House done by the Metropolitan Energy Center. So we take those that are interested out to places. Last year we did it to the community college, which does a very big sustainable farm and farming unit. So people that are interested in that could visit that. Or there's a Starfish Project, which is a homeless organization in Olathe, which is just down the street from Overland Park. We saved grocery sacks, and they will teach you how to crochet them into mats that are then given to the homeless to give them some protection from the cold and the wet as they're out in the fields and sleeping on street corners and stuff. And then there's the stream cleanup, which tends to be, a lot of our kids love to do that one. Something about mud and wet and kids but if you notice, trash. Trash. Yeah, we should figure out why there's trash instead of just cleaning it up, but we'll get there. You'll notice that they can go to someone who doesn't have good mobility. So the To Living Project is a drive to, and it's an easy walk around, or if someone's in a wheelchair, something they can get to. Kids love the cleanup, so we've got all ages going to that. And the Starfish Project, we have some crafters that are on oxygen and really can't get out, but they can sit in Heartland Hall and crochet plastic bags and then still join us. So think about including all of your community in doing things like that.
That's great, Joan, being
good?
very inclusive, aren't
We
you?
try. We try. Okay. Now, challenges. Some of you wannabes, I'm thinking there'll be some challenges that maybe as a team of PEC working with PCUSA, we can help with maybe some ways we've done things, or because you're here, look at the resources you can contact. You have contact information. So let's work with that. So are there any challenges?
Before
No.
we do that, should we hear from June?
Hear from June. Go from June. Go, June.
I actually brought this, so,
We could probably take this down now.
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
sorry. So I'm with Warner Memorial Presbyterian Church in Kensington, Maryland, and been doing the Earth Care Congregations thing since the first year. Yeah, we've had, and let me tell you about, you talked about forming a team, and a cautionary tale is that is very important. We had a church in the National Capital Presbytery who certified as an Earth Care congregation probably just a year after we did. But then 3 or so years later, they were no longer certified because their team was really one person. And that person became ill and her life changed, and now there's no longer certification. Now they may still be doing green actions at their church, but they're not certified. So the team lends continuity. Okay, I'm going for my thing
I
here.
might add to that, PEC has resources on how to start an Earth Care team on our website.
And so does, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so Warner Memorial Presbyterian has been a PCUSA certified Earth Care congregation for more than 11 years. But 9 years ago, when we erected our new tower for an elevator, we were faced with the loss of several trees and the opportunity for new landscaping. The Montgomery County Department of Environmental Protection has a program called Rainscapes to help increase biodiversity and reduce stormwater runoff to the Chesapeake Bay watershed. That program was the basis for our new landscape plan that redirects water from downspouts into the garden instead of onto the street. Funds from our Tower Capital campaign and rebates from the Montgomery County Rainscapes funded the new plantings. The native flowering and fruiting plants provide habitat for many small animals, including bees, butterflies, and birds, and the water from our roof percolating through the soil cleans the water before it can enter the watershed. In an average year, the soil cleans, an average year of 44 inches of rain, that's the meteorological average, our gardens filter 69,000 gallons of rainwater. And we don't have a very large piece of property. Just to let you know, this little talk that I'm giving was the basis for a tour I gave. We are on, I think, less than half an acre. And that, of course, also accommodates our building.
And
So-
your parking?
No,
Oh, okay.
parking lots across the
Away.
street. In any case, It's not a lot of land, but you can do a lot with it. Since 2015, our gardens have expanded and our lawn has been reduced. We have an 800 square foot vegetable garden started by a member's Eagle Scout project. The congregation named it the Shepherd's Garden because we grow vegetables for the Shepherd's Table, which is a local social services organization that prepares 3 meals a day. As well, 2 addition garden areas funded by memorial donations have been established following the same guidelines to provide sustainable plantings and provide natural habitats. People always ask, how do you do this? Well, we do pay a landscape maintenance company who cooperates with our commitment as an Earth Care congregation, and some areas of our gardens are maintained by volunteers. The sustainable landscape requires fewer visits than a conventional shrub and flowers. While some members initially missed the space to gather on a lawn, now everyone greatly appreciates the year-round natural beauty and a haven for wildlife are found on our grounds. And when I was at a town gathering on Juneteenth Day, and I said, oh, I'm with Warner Memorial. We're the church at Washington Street on Connecticut. And he said, oh, the church with the gardens. So that's how we've become known. We have, in the 11 years, we've covered all those 4 areas, but it's our gardens that we're getting known for.
Now you're famous, June. Thanks for all your work.
I can show you pictures if you want.
Do we have any questions online?
Oh, sorry. I do have some questions online from folks. I have the first question. I think you cleared it up, but it was, I thought, from Deborah, who said, I thought the first 5 years you fill out the audit form. After that, you have the narrative option.
Yes, you have an option after that.
Sally asks, is it possible for a small congregation of 40 to 50 members, mostly older, to be an Earth Care congregation?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, everyone.
And I would say most definitely. I'm very impressed by some small churches I've learned about.
And lastly, I have a question from Jim online who asks, can a church still get credit for things done in recent years for their initial application?
Yes, for the initial application, you can include anything that you've ever done. But after that, you can only include what you did in the past year.
I think we have time for,
Sorry, yeah. So if one of you wants to run that
Yep.
mic by the piano, but I do have one more online question from Claudia, who asked, so do you agree on pledge and present audit? So do you agree on pledge and present? Oh, so okay, I see what they're saying. So do you agree on the pledge, I'm guessing with the team or the people who they're working with, and present the audit to session at the same time?
the pledge has to be submitted and approved by session. And our church did it that way. We gave them the audit so they had the numbers and then asked them to sign the pledge so we could submit it. I've heard some churches that will get their session to sign the pledge, and then they will do the work to do the audit and then submit it that way. We have just a short time, but we got a couple of questions.
I was just going to say I did it the reverse of what you did. Okay. I had my session sign the Earth Care Pledge and authorize us to go out and do this audit. And just to warn you, the first reaction of the session was, because they were afraid it was going to cost, $4.3 trillion to do all this. And my comment back to them was, when you save energy, you save money. Oh, okay. So then and then I also said, if this is going to cost any more money, we don't have the power to pay that money. You do. You're the session. So if you don't like it, then don't pay it. Come on, guys. You're in charge. You're not us. So that also calmed them down a lot. They got off the wall after that. I had to peel them off the wall a little bit, but.
Well, and you can always go to the website and pull up some of these pictures, and you can see many of those didn't cost money. Now, the solar panels and the lights did, but if you're doing a worship service of seed, yeah, right. Sarah?
Yeah, there is one other approach, which I think is what we did, which is we looked around the congregation and determined what we were already doing, and not an audit. We did not do an audit. We were just wanting to know what we were doing. We were making, like looking around, seeing what the possibilities were. Then we took that to the session, and they did the pledge, and then we went back and did the audit.
And the more ways you hear about different places do it, again, you know your session, you know your team, you know what might work. So it helps to hear different ways that people did it, because you go, we can do it that way.
Hi, our church is in its first year of being an Earth Care congregation, and I'm on the team. Our biggest challenge is the deacons and the fellowship. So we have finally talked them into trying the biodegradable communion cups, but we can't get them to do much else because it's hard to ask people to wash a lot of dishes even though we have a dishwasher. So anybody have any hints for me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and real quick, and then I'll,
We have a special tray that we put in our dishwasher that the communion cups go in.
Yeah, there's many different ways to do that. And one of the things we did early in the time is, let's go back to the 1800s and everybody bring their picnic basket to get them to recognize they don't have to have paper plates. So you could play that kind of historical. There's different ways to do it. And we'd be glad to talk more with you afterwards. I think we have to, are we out of time? Okay.
okay.
Can I offer a resource for people to see examples of what other churches have done?
If you'll give it to me, we'll put it on the resource list. Perfect, okay.
So thank you all for being here virtually and in person. And if the in-person people want to continue the discussion, I think we can do that.
That's awesome.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
And our contact information is up there, so you're more than welcome to use it.